Well, thanks for joining us. I am Marnie Stockman, Education Solutions Director for PowerSchool, with a focus on Performance Matters. And I'm here today with Steve Amburgey from Clay County, Florida. Steve, could you introduce yourself and your role and how you got started with Performance Matters in the district?
Sure. My official title is the Director of Assessment, Accountability, and School Support. That basically means I do whatever the superintendent says. I work with Performance Matters, primarily with the assessment platform and the data and analytics side. I work with our school specialists, our curriculum specialists that develop our tests to use as our local assessments, our benchmarks and our progress monitoring throughout the year. I also work with our school administrators on the data analytics piece, and as well as do a lot of training with teachers so they can use the product as well.
Perfect. We were just talking earlier. We've both been in this together with Performance Matters, me as an employee and you with the district as Performance Matters for the past 7 years. So it's not our first day at this rodeo, although it is our first year with this, as it was with everybody else, with this, interesting new way of
You are correct, yes.
of having to do schooling. So that's really what we're here to talk about today. So my first question is just a generic question: is how's schooling going in Clay County right now, and just what's life like for everybody?
We have gone to 100% distance learning. We were lucky enough that our spring break fell right
when this hit.
after everything hit, and so we had 6 days and 5 days of spring break plus a teacher planning day additionally to get ready for this. So our spring break fell perfectly. If we had to do this, it worked out that way. We are using a couple different platforms. Google Classroom is one because we are a Google district. That is delivering the content to the students, and our teachers are jumping on board and doing the best they can in these weird situations.
Yeah, for sure. And how's Performance Matters playing a role?
It's been very important for our teachers to be able to look at the progress of their students throughout the year. So using our benchmark testing, our quarterly testing that we do on our math and ELA. We also have the data there for them to look at past FSA data as well. Since we're not having FSA tests this year, especially as we move into the master schedule creation and student placement for next year, we're using the data from Baseball Card to help us make those decisions as to what would be the best course for the students to go into.
So I was talking with someone earlier from Maryland, actually, who same exact story, right? We're not going to have our state data, but we're trying to triangulate other measures. They'd run some numbers around some of their benchmarks to say, since we knew they were good predictors of this state assessment, we're kind of using that data in place of that, in addition to some other third-party things for the younger ones, DeVols, et cetera. So with Baseball Card, which holds really any measure you would like to put in there, are you triangulating different measures at different levels, right? Where maybe third, fourth, fifth grade are using some other piece of data than maybe high school folks?
Right. Our elementary folks, we have iReady and Achieve data that we use in addition to our local benchmarks and past FSA data to pull all that together in one spot. Baseball Card's perfect for that because I can create a report at my level, push it out to anybody at the district, and when they log in, they click the button, and they see the students that they need to see, which is the ones they're tied to through our student information system. So it's a great tool to use, and I can create reports in seconds and send them out to people. I've had folks call me on the phone and say, "Hey, can you create this for me?" And I do it while they're talking to me, and before we're done with the conversation, I've sent them the link. So it's a convenient and easy way to pull data.
For sure. So if I'm ever demoing Performance Matters, I always say my second favorite button is the share button, right? The ability. So I used to be the local accountability coordinator. So I used to have to take Excel spreadsheets, download, pivot, create a new view, and put it on a secure server for somebody. But with that share link, to be able to just ship the link where they sign in and see the view that they need, right? Perfection. My favorite button, of course, is to unselect student name and aggregate the data in a heartbeat, right? That's the master plan data collector for the district. Was very happy to have that one. But yeah, I'm with you. That's a powerful feature inside the platform.
Yep, and since we're not going to have teacher data from our VAM scores coming in Florida, it makes it a huge point to look for data, how effective the teachers were this year, and a baseball card and the other reports that you could find in Unify have just been so easy to use, and just encouraging our administrators at the school level. You have it sitting in front of you. Don't stress, just look it up, find it, or ask. And if they've forgotten or they're new, it takes just a few minutes to get them trained up and right back on track.
Yeah, unlike Excel, which takes some programming knowledge to be able to aggregate and sort and swatch, right?
Correct.
In baseball card, just to pull all the measures, use the color swatches. It is the speed of it, I think, is really handy for somebody who doesn't have to have programming background.
Yep. And the fact that we've added quite a few local filters that we add, and that we have to have, whether it's our military families for the grants that we have, or just data on ESE or ELL, just making sure that we have all that at our fingertips. So it is very helpful.
So when you mention those other types, and I think those custom filters are critical, are you also looking at any sort of social, emotional, or early warning types of indicators, like attendance, behavior, course failures?
And we have implemented the early warning system as well as the grad tracker. So the early warning system allows us to bring in attendance, referrals, and grades, and really target those kids that will be potential dropouts for our secondaries, and those students that need intervention right away. So we're lucky enough to have some mental health counselors on staff, as well as our guidance staff at all our schools. But they know to check the early warning system right away and check it routinely. I work with our guidance counselors every month. We have monthly meetings, and one of the things that's been on every agenda is, have you checked your early warning system to see which kids may need some intervention right away? So we talk about that just about every month.
So that's one unique thing I find, that districts that use Performance Matters really do get all of their stakeholders to see the data they need in one place. So everybody's familiar with the reporting, right? A lot of school districts before had to go someplace else to get guidance counselor data, and sometimes that was physical files with the colored cards, right? But to be able to send everyone to the same place, I think makes for a faster conversation and to ensure everybody's on the same page for a student.
Absolutely. It's been a great resource, especially for new teachers that walk in the first week and they're like, I see my kids, I have a roster, but I don't know a lot about them. Using our student information system and then baseball card, they can see which kids have IEPs that are 504s, that they'll know right away if they're ELL. They're able to see that just with color coding or a yes or no column in baseball card to say, okay, these are the kids I need to make sure I pay close attention to, or ask the guidance counselor, hey, can I get a copy of the IEP, or locate the ESC secretary to get more information as well.
Yeah, all that longitudinal data in one place is pretty powerful. My daughter and son had used Performance Matters all through their schooling. So when they graduated, you could literally go back and look at their kindergarten results in the system, which I think is, I mean, that's pretty powerful for sure. So as you're looking toward the end of this year, first, I'm curious if you've made any decisions about grading, and then are you doing anything differently with assessments? You normally would have FSAs. Are you doing any end of course type of local benchmarking, or are you relying on data that's already there?
We are relying on data from our first 3 quarters
Okay.
To give the most information. We didn't want to test the students at home. Our high school kids are already starting AP testing next week at home. Our ACE
That'll be interesting.
and IB, absolutely. Our ACE and IB tests have been canceled for this year, so we're not doing those, but our AP is still going on. So it'll be curious to see how those go. But we're going to require the teachers and our admin to look at quarters 1, 2, and 3 and just make decisions from there. As for grading for quarter 4, our superintendent has put in place that the quarter 4 grades can't go any lower than the average of the quarters 1, 2, and 3. So we don't want to harm kids just because they may not have the access at home that they need to.
I've heard that from a lot of folks that you could maybe use Q4 if teachers worked with them on specific standards and they saw growth, that they could increase a grade, but they weren't going to penalize children, because this is, as everyone says, unprecedented times for everybody, right? And
It certainly
frankly,
is.
some of the homeschooling parents will freely admit that they are not certified to be teaching the children
Oh,
some of the standards that they are working with.
yes, and we have heard from many parents that they have a new respect for our teachers in our
Oh
school
yeah,
system, which
yeah.
I think is great. So as we roll into next year, we will be hopefully having a lot more support from our parents.
Yeah, I did see a car that passed that said, "You lied to me. These are not well-behaved students." And I thought, oh dear, I know what they're going through.
Yep, yep. Having your kids 24/7 is an eye opener.
That's funny. So clearly you've already identified the fact, like, there are going to be some learning gaps in the fall. What will you do maybe differently from what you normally did, or what would you normally do in the fall to address learning gaps and moving from there?
Our curriculum specialists have been working on revising our curriculum maps to include standards from the year before.
Power
So, yep.
standards.
So
Okay.
if their kids are rolling in 8th grade, they're going to have some Q4 standards from 7th grade embedded into
Mhm.
Q1 for 8th
Yeah.
grade. So we're going to try to do a quick catch up, a quick review, and teach some new things, and then move on.
So someone else mentioned that to me earlier as well, and we were talking about they're kind of trying to identify some needs for professional development for 8th grade teachers who'd never taught the 7th grade standards, and have you considered anything around professional development for teachers they might need?
Well, our curriculum specialists, the ones that develop the maps, also do the professional development with our teachers in the schools. So they're preparing now to start over the summer with sending out some information to those teachers that say, hey, these are some updates that you have coming in the fall. If you have time in your summer, take a look and then reach out to them with any questions. And I know they've been monitoring the questions on our benchmarks for our first couple
Mm.
weeks of tests, and just trying to
Mhm.
adjust those and take out those Q4s, because we don't want to stress the students out so much that we don't get all those right. Because I have a perfectionist at home. My 12-year-old doesn't like to miss questions. She does not
Sure.
like to be wrong. So she would definitely stress if she missed a whole set of questions on a benchmark test.
Oh yeah, that is very much in the land of social emotional learning, right? You really have to be cautious of that, with because that you can drive anxiety or you can reduce it, you know.
Absolutely. And we
Yeah.
are trying to reduce it across the board with teachers, parents, and students.
And my next question was going to be, are there any creative ideas or ways you're using assessments or data to help support teachers, parents, and students?
Well, with our student information system, the parents have access to all of the testing data, and they can see how the students performed on benchmark tests or on iReady or Achieve, and they see that data there. So we've tried to educate them a little more on where the students should be when at the end of Q3. So we're showing them that data, and just saying, you may be able to see some weak spots that you can help, because I'm also the principal of our local virtual school. It's another hat I wear.
Your
Um,
reward for good work is more good
yes,
work.
yes, thank you. So, and with that, we have probably 300 to 400 full-time students, but then everyone that takes a part-time class across the district was with us too. So we have
Okay.
probably 5,000 kids in the virtual school right now. And now that the parents are seeing how virtual education can help some students, the ones that get distracted in the classroom, the ones
Mm-hmm.
that can't focus because of what's going on, now have a one-on-one option to talk to their teacher, to work on their own pace. And I think they're seeing the benefit of that. And I think our virtual school is going to grow a little bit, because some students actually like it, and they're used to it, and they can see that the advantages. And then we have those parents that are say, I'm never going to have my kid do virtual ever. I've heard them talk to me a lot, because their kids need that interaction at school. They need someone there to really, really help them and focus and move on.
So I think that's a really good point, is that for some, this is getting them a more personalized learning approach. Do you that I'm throwing this out to you because I hadn't told you I was going to ask you the question, but personalized learning, differentiated instruction, whole group instruction, have you seen shifts because of these times?
Absolutely. Our teachers have set up appointments so that they can talk to kids in 15-minute blocks and just say, you know, where do you need help? What do you have questions about? Parents too. Parents get on the same Google Meets that we use, and that they all can collaborate. So I think that we're seeing a lot more collaboration between the parents, the students, and the teacher than we have in the past, because it's almost a one-on-one with the parent as well. You know, we have the ability to do that now. Our superintendent, you know, has said, you know, this is a very different time, and we really need to take care of not only our students but our teachers and parents as well. So we want to make sure that the teachers' needs are met. They're not overworked, and they're not anxious about every day logging on, because some people aren't comfortable, you know, seeing themselves on the screen and talking to students. And it's important to know that we told them, do the best you can. If you need help, we have the resources here at the district to help you do that.
See on a lot of social media, like, none of us signed up for this, so like, keep calm and we will
Right,
all do our best, right?
right,
So
absolutely.
are there things, you and I were talking about the schedule before we started the call. Are there things over the summer that's going to look dramatically different, other than clearly your curriculum folks have no shortage for work if they're kind of helping recreate the start of school? What
Right,
else is different?
and yeah, absolutely. With just the adjustment of the curriculum maps, if you throw in the fact that we got an interim superintendent in the first week of March, and then our entire
First week of March?
yeah,
How's that for being thrown right into the fire?
first week of March we got an interim superintendent, and then our entire senior staff followed our exiting superintendent to his new job. So we were senior staffless for a while. We just got a couple of those replaced, and a couple more are getting replaced next week. So it's been a different kind of month, because our superintendent
way
is
to
fond
way
of
to low key that.
right. Yeah, and our superintendent is fond of saying, you know, he didn't think he'd have to face a pandemic in the first week of school, but you know, that's he's there, and he's doing a good job, and he's, you know, keeping everybody calm and focused, and reassuring them that we will all get through this together.
Oh, yes, no doubt. It reminds me of, I had an assistant superintendent of curriculum who said she was glad she wasn't in the facilities department, because they always had to have the crisis plan and the emergency plan. And she's like, there's never a curriculum crisis, right? Well, and then suddenly there was a
Now there is,
curriculum
yeah,
crisis,
right.
right? So you have already done online testing. Um, through Performance Matters for years and all of its different iterations. Uh, do you have different plans for the fall if we go back in some hybrid model? I know that's not set yet, on doing remote testing. I mean, you're doing AP testing next week, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so
We
clearly
are.
not a foreign notion to you. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think we're waiting for some clear and concise data from the CDC and our governor to see how we are going back to school. If we do it on a staggered start somehow, or half the students come one day, half the students come the next, we'll probably still test at school, but we will rotate through, make sure we extend the windows a little bit to make sure we get everybody tested.
um, right. It'll all be interesting whether they'll be from home and have to test from home, or if they will
Right.
be sometime in school with face-to-face. I've heard a couple different models, the 2 days on, a sanitation day, 2 days with another group. For sure, it's unprecedented times. Are there other things I haven't asked about that are weighing heavily on your mind right now, or are these the key points that you're really focusing on?
Well, we have reached out to our teachers, and and told them that if they need to make answer key only tests for students, that's a huge option right now, because the scoring aspect is taken care of for them, and the data flies right into the baseball card. They can pull it on individual students. The landing page for the teachers as well gives them so much information on a student. We've encouraged them to use that prior to going into a parent conference,
Sure.
because it not only has historical data from grades. You can see grades for the past few years, current grades. You can see attendance, discipline, their schedule, and you can see assessment data right there on the landing page per kid. So that's something that we always try to encourage our teachers to use. I know that we have in the past talked about the parent portal side of Performance Matters,
Sure.
and we have discussed that. So that may be something that we're moving to shortly, but I think we need to get through the pandemic that we're playing with right now,
Sure.
and then we'll be making some decisions about the direction of a lot of our products.
On the student detail page that you're talking about, I do like the standards heat map, really, that shows all the standards that have been taught, and then, you know, the green where the kids are doing well, and then always got some in orange that we really need to focus on. I like to talk about the student detail as one kid, all the data, versus baseball card, all students, all data,
Correct.
right? And sort of parse out differently. So I think that's really key for sure. Are there other pieces that anything else to share for how you're dealing with this, or things you hadn't thought you'd be dealing with that you're now focusing on?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we had to deal with was getting Chromebooks into the hands of the students. So,
Sure.
you know, we had a delivery system where they met at certain schools, and we passed them out. Everybody stayed in their cars. Everybody were masked and gloved, and it worked really well. So we issued between 15 and 16,000 Chromebooks to students in a 5-day period.
Wow.
So I mean, our staff really came together in our IT department and handled that really well.
And thank goodness for some CARES Act funding to help support
Yeah,
that, I'm sure.
that helped a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I know when you work from home, you live at work, right? So we're all
Right.
finding that that we're working a lot more than anticipated in a lot of different ways. So I really appreciate you chatting with me today.
Oh, no, I was very happy to do so. I mean, Performance Matters has been a part of our life going on 8 years now, and I don't see it ever going away, simply because it's a necessity to be able to find the data quickly, share the data, and get everybody on the same page as we move forward.
Yeah, I agree that impact on an individual student and then at the aggregate level as well, right? One place, one view for everybody is really key. So thank you.
Absolutely.